Okay, good morning everyone. So it's a lovely sunny Wednesday morning in Sydney. So when I checked my inbox this morning, I had quite a few questions that arose about last night's webinar. So if you weren't on the webinar, we talked about short-term rental and in particular Airbnb. And so there've been quite a lot of questions, and I thought that what I would do is come on live and answer them directly. And so thank you for those of you who sent in the questions, because it's really, for me, good to know the sorts of things that you need to know. Like, it's always hard when you're putting together an information session because, you try and hit on what people want to know about. But so we're refining our understanding of what your needs are ongoingly. And so I thought it might be a good idea to answer some of those questions now. And so one of the first ones was around, so basically I talked about how Airbnb provides an amazing opportunity for people, in particular women. I've been working with women, so I can really only speak about my experience, to create an income out of nothing. So, one of the issues that I have a lot of is I work with people who want to have a better life, but the thing that's getting in their way is cash flow. So, to do anything with property, you need cash flow. And so along comes Airbnb, which is an amazing opportunity. And if you get yourself organised, you can make a serious income as a host. Now, one of the questions this morning was basically, how does that work? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that now to sort of make it a bit clearer for you. So one of the things that I figured out was you need about 5 listings, to create a 50,000 income per year, which is not very much. Seriously, you can manage that in your spare time. Actually, I'm managing 4 listings now, and and running a business, and running projects. So got a lot of stuff on the boil, but I also have 4 listings. So managing 5 is not that onerous at all. But it's all about having systems and being organised. And there's on the short-term rental platform, in particular Airbnb, there are really 2 types of hosts. So there's the investor host, or might just be a homeowner who's not overly interested in sort of making this their life, but wants to have the extra income. So often they will not be overly interested in or have the time or the skills or even the inclination to host it themselves. They might want to get someone else to host that for them and sacrifice a small percentage of that fantastic income to get someone to host it for them. So that's one side. So the ones that want a host. And then on the other side, we have the entrepreneurial hosts, and you know who you are, who can see the amazing opportunity that is Airbnb provides, and actually loves the whole hosting process. The great thing about it is that you can tailor it according to what your strengths are. Just hang on a tick. I've just better check. I think I might have someone. Oh, it's fine. Sorry. David's coming up and he's standing in the stairs worried that he's going to walk into a live, which he will, but he'll just wave as he goes by. So now where was I? The second type of host is the entrepreneurial type of host who can see the amazing opportunity that Airbnb is providing and wants to seize that and build a business, and more importantly, build an income that is, sustainable. Now, the fantastic thing about it is you can build a really substantial income really quickly and quite easily. Now, I'm not just talking off the top of my head here. We have students that are actually doing this right now. We're actually piloting a program, because as I say, it solves a big problem that we have come across with the people that we work with. So we're really interested in getting this up and running really quickly. And I'll talk, so we've got lots of stuff in the pipeline that's really going to help those people with their hosting so that it's easy and streamlined, but that's, probably a few weeks off, so we'll stick with the topic at the moment. So, okay, so we've got the people that want the income and don't want to do the work or don't have the time to do the work, and then we've got the entrepreneurial hosts who are interested in building an income. And so basically what we do is put those together. So, win-win. So that someone that's building on their hosting skills and, setting up processes so that the process is streamlined and the properties are really well hosted, it's a win for both. So the host that owns the property will pay the host who hosts their property a percentage of the income, and yes, that's a match made in heaven. So the second way that our entrepreneurial hosts can build their hosting portfolio is by renting properties. Now, one of the questions and we do have hosts that are doing this. One of the questions I was asked is, do landlords allow this? Well, it's not so much a matter of do they allow it, it's more a matter of how you position your offer. So it's a negotiation process, and so, as I say, we definitely have hosts that are doing this right now. But it's about that conversation. It's a negotiation process. The biggest problem with landlords, from their point of view, so it's, always got to look at it from, from where they're standing, is the risk, because particularly someone that's not had a lot to do with Airbnb, one of the things that you need to deal with is managing their concern around the risk, because the reason people live with the low income from a long-term rental is because in their eyes, it's pretty low risk. I don't think it is, because you've got, once you've got a tenant in there, if they're a bad tenant, it's difficult to get them out. And you live with a low income as a result of that. But because it's perceived as low risk, that's, sorry, I keep looking for the camera. That's something that forms part of the conversation that you have with a potential landlord in terms of you perhaps renting the property and then listing it on a short-term rental. There are quite a few things that you need to get right around compliance and liability. With anything I talk about in these videos, can you please make sure you get independent legal and accounting advice that relates to your own circumstances. Of course, the people we work with, we actually support them in this process to make sure that they progress in a safe and sustainable way. Now, what was the next question? I'll just have to check for a minute. Sorry? Okay, so the next question was around getting a loan and using the Airbnb income as for serviceability. Now, it's true that that can be problematic. What I do know is we do have people in our community who are using serviceability, the Airbnb income, in their serviceability calculations, but that's a case of working with your broker or bank to negotiate your way forward. It's always going to be hardest in the beginning, okay? But one thing I would say is if you're going to be, taking on hosting as a means of cash flow, then you want to really think seriously about the legal setup, because that will, if that's set up correctly, that will certainly help you look more favourable to the banks, okay? So I'm obviously not going to give you legal or accounting advice from this, but just to tell you to work closely with your property accountant to set up your legal structures to assist you in your seeking of finance. Now, the last question, what was that? So the last question was around getting a VA to help you. So I think I did mention in the training last night that I have a virtual assistant who manages pretty much all the day-to-day of our listings. And so all the communication which we have systemised, so it nurtures our clients or our guests. And, she manages the cleaner. The only thing there's two things that I have to do. One, I have to come in if there's a problem. And usually it's got to be, my Judy, her name is, can manage most things. But, sometimes if there is a big issue, and that happens from time to time, then I actually need to come and deal with it, which I do, mainly because she's in another country. But the other, what's the other thing? I have to do the paying, which I actually do find quite annoying, but I have to do the paying. But other than that, it's a pretty streamlined process. Now, there are a lot of sites online for employing a virtual assistant. What I would tell, I have been through the ropes with this. I think in the last 2 years, I've probably employed 7 or 8. And I can tell you sometimes it is very hit and miss. And so it's taken me a bit of time to figure out a process where you can weed out the sheep from the goats pretty quickly. And you also need a screening process so that you can, test your applicants to see who's going to be the best fit for your job, and also the actual training process. So it takes some work, but the long-term benefits are well worth it. So if you're planning to have, say 2 or 3 listings, having a virtual assistant is an absolute godsend. So, I think I showed the people I was training last night that that Judy she is proactive in keeping up to date with what's available on the platform. If the cleaner says the carpets need cleaning, she organises a cleaner. I don't need to ring up a carpet cleaner. She will just email through, get it set up, organise the payment, and that just happens. So it's if you're running a business, it's sort of like having a PA in your business. I know there's software and stuff online, but someone still needs to manage it. And so basically that's how we manage it. And I would thoroughly recommend, if you're planning to have more than 1 or 2 listings, that you go down that path. And it's very cost effective. Now, sometimes, I have people saying, is that ethical? Well, look, I would be the first to be jumping on it if it wasn't. So the reality is that, the economies, we're employing from an economy that's totally different from ours, okay? So what I choose to do is pay my employees above the not the award, but the average. so that they are well paid, but still compared to what I would be paying here is, it's, you know, like incredibly cheap. So from what I can see, it's a win-win. You know, my Judy is a single mum. She can work from home. She can work on her own terms. And I do invest in training her and giving her the same opportunities as my my staff in Australia. And you know, I've also had the argument, you know, it's taking jobs from Australians. Well, actually, it's not, because I would not be paying someone to be doing that if I didn't have Judy doing it, because it just would not be cost effective to do that. So, you know, I hope that has been helpful. I think I've answered every question that was asked of me this morning, and I hope this has been of value. So I'm going to sign off now, and have a great day.